I don't remember exactly when I stopped expecting the invitation. Maybe around the second week of December. That's usually when the group texts would start messages about potluck assignments, ugly sweater ideas, or whether we were doing Secret Santa this year or not. But this year, nothing came. No messages, no photos, not even one of Dad's corny holiday memes. At first, I told myself they were just running late. Maybe Mom Susan Morgan, the kind of woman who never let a ribbon go untied, had something up her sleeve. Maybe my younger sister Chloe was planning a surprise. She had always loved big gestures, especially when she could post them later with just the right filter and caption. And my father, Richard, had been forgetful before. I thought maybe I was just overthinking it. Still, I checked my phone too often. I'd reach for it without thinking, thumbing over to my messages and staring at the empty thread. No new texts, no calls. The silence wasn't loud exactly, it was something worse. It was sharp, like the kind that makes your ears ring when you're standing in a room that used to be full. By the time the 20th rolled around, I stopped pretending it was a mistake. I knew what the silence meant. I knew what they were choosing. They just weren't saying it out loud. And somehow, that made it feel worse. Because when people scream at you, you still exist. When they go quiet, it's like you've already been erased. I didn't tell anyone, not my coworkers, not the one friend I still talked to from college. It was too embarrassing. I was 31 years old. I'd built my own business, paid my bills, paid other people's bills too. I wasn't supposed to be sitting alone waiting for a holiday invitation from people who clearly didn't want me there. Still, I waited. Not just for the invitation, for some kind of recognition that I wasn't invisible, that I hadn't slipped through the cracks in a house I once helped build. The house on Oak Ridge Lane where I learned how to cook a turkey and where Chloe always got the bigger slice of cake. Christmas was 5 days away, and even though I had no plans, no calls, and no place to be, I kept my phone charged just in case. It arrived 2 days before Christmas. A FedEx envelope stiff and thick was waiting on my doorstep when I came back from the grocery store. It had the kind of weight that made you think twice before opening it. My first thought, embarrassingly, was hope. Maybe this was their way of apologizing. A formal invitation, maybe Mom's handwriting on a card, or a gift certificate tucked inside from Dad with one of his forced jokes. I carried it inside, still in my coat, and placed it gently on the kitchen counter. It had my parents' names on the return address, Susan and Richard Morgan. Something fluttered in my chest. I wanted so badly for it to be something kind, something human. I opened it carefully. Not in a rush, almost reverently, as if the contents might undo the silence of the past few weeks. Inside was a single sheet of paper, no note, no greeting, no explanation, just an invoice. My eyes went straight to the number $25,000. I blinked once, twice, trying to make sense of it. Then I read the details. The invoice was for the 2023 Honda Civic I had helped Chloe purchase last summer. The car she had picked out while I sat beside her at the dealership helping her negotiate down the interest rate. The one I'd agreed to co-sign after Mom told me it'll just be for a few months. Claire will pay you back promise. There was no mention of that promise now. Just a total balance due. And one line that stopped me cold as per verbal agreement to gift vehicle to Chloe Morgan. Gift. I stood at the counter, the paper trembling slightly in my hand. So that was it. No dinner. No invitation, no family, just a bill. This wasn't the first time I'd been given less and told to be more. Growing up, my family looked like something out of a magazine. A polished home on a quiet street, matching sweaters at Christmas, polite smiles for neighbors, and family photos that hid more than they showed. My mother, Susan, always made sure the front porch was seasonally decorated, and the desserts for church potlucks were homemade, though most of them came from the bakery aisle, carefully unwrapped and arranged. My father, Richard, wasn't unkind. He just preferred things smooth, efficient. He kept his voice even and his expectations higher than he said aloud. Emotions made him uncomfortable, questions even more so. Then there was Chloe. She's 7 years younger than me, pretty, emotional, endlessly excused. From the time we were little, she had a way of bending the world around her. If I cried, it meant I wasn't tough enough. If she cried, it meant someone had been unkind. I was praised for being independent. She was praised just for being. There's this moment I still remember, though it happened more than 20 years ago. I had spent an entire afternoon building a tall, careful tower of blocks in the living room. Chloe came running through the room and knocked it over. I burst into tears. My mother rushed in, not to me, not to my crumpled blocks, but to Chloe. "Are you okay, sweetheart? Did Claire scare you?" No mention of my work. No question if I was hurt. That's when I learned I wasn't there to be comforted. I was there to recover quickly so others wouldn't have to. It didn't change much as we got older. I helped Chloe with her homework, made her lunch when Mom didn't have the bandwidth, and sat through her drama club rehearsals. I picked her up from parties, drove her to tutoring, stayed quiet when she slammed her bedroom door. When she went to college, I helped with that too. Not all of it my business, was still young then, but I paid for more than I could afford. Mom and Dad said they were stretched thin, and Chloe was still finding her footing. They promised it would be temporary. It always was. Until the next time. After graduation, Chloe called me in tears. She couldn't find a job, didn't know where to start. I sent her referrals, reached out to people I barely knew on LinkedIn, helped her clean up her resume. A few months later, she was hired at a mid-sized design firm. She posted a selfie on her first day with the caption, "Made it on my own." I didn't say anything. Last summer, her car gave out. She called again, sobbing so hard I couldn't understand her at first. She needed a car to get to work, and their credit cards were maxed out. Susan texted me a few hours later. "Claire, can you help, just for now? We'll pay you back within a few weeks." I went with her to the dealership, sat through the paperwork, co-signed for the loan, $25,000. It was a lot, but I told myself it was family. And that meant something. Or at least it used to. I think the moment I started to see things clearly was last Christmas. I had hosted the dinner that year, something Mom usually did, but she claimed she was overwhelmed. Work deadlines, church events, something about her blood pressure. So I offered like I always did. I cleaned the apartment, shopped for groceries, planned the meal, and cooked every single dish from scratch. Not reheated cooked. Mom still called it her turkey even though I basted it every hour and got up at 6 a.m. to prep. I made the mashed potatoes, the green bean casserole, the cranberry sauce from actual cranberries, not a can. Chloe came late, of course, holding a bottle of wine and acting like she had done us a favor just by showing up. I had put wrapped gifts under the little tree, nothing extravagant but thoughtful. A scarf in Mom's favorite color, a new corkscrew for Dad. Chloe got a framed photo of us from a beach trip years ago. She didn't even unwrap it all the way. We sat down to eat. Everyone passed plates and made small talk. I was tired, but I was happy in that quiet way when you've done something right, even if no one notices. Then Mom looked at me. Really looked at me for the first time all evening. "Claire," she said, her voice too bright, too loud. "Why aren't you wearing heels? It's Christmas. We have guests." I looked down at my feet, just plain clean flats. My back ached. My hands were still slightly red from oven mitts. And in that moment, all I felt was small. I had done everything, and all they noticed was what I wasn't wearing. It wasn't the first time, but somehow it felt like the last. This year, I didn't even get a group text. The family chat used to be active this time of year, last-minute dinner questions, shared Pinterest recipes, and reminders from Mom about not forgetting to defrost the rolls. But sometime between Halloween and December, my name disappeared. No one said they were removing me. No one needed to. The silence was answer enough. I thought maybe they'd reach out privately, but the days kept passing and nothing came. I sent one simple message, "Are we still doing anything this year?" and it sat there delivered unread. Then I saw that the group photo had changed. A new one from Thanksgiving, I assumed. I wasn't in it. Chloe, of course, was busy online. Her Instagram was full of twinkle lights, wrapped gifts, fresh garlands draped across their banister. I recognized the tree ornaments. Most of them were ones I'd bought over the years, gathered during after-Christmas sales or on quiet afternoons when I wanted something pretty to bring home to my parents' house. There was one photo in particular, Chloe standing next to the tree, beaming, holding a mug that said, "Family is everything." The caption read, "Can't wait to be with my real ones this Christmas, real ones." I stared at those two words longer than I should have. They shouldn't have stung. But they did, because I knew exactly what they meant. Real didn't mean true or honest or loyal. It meant present. It meant not me. I scrolled further. Her car was in several photos, still spotless, still new. In one, shopping bags spilled out of the trunk. In another, she was laughing in the driver's seat, tagged at a high-end outlet mall I couldn't afford, even before I co-signed the loan. My stomach tightened. I looked away from the screen, blinking hard. That was the car I paid for. That was the family I used to belong to. For a while, I actually considered paying it. The invoice sat on my kitchen counter for 2 days, unopened after that first glance, but never out of sight. Every time I walked by, I could feel it watching me. Not accusing exactly, just waiting, like it already knew I would fold. I told myself it would be easier that way. If I just paid it, maybe they'd come around. Maybe they'd see how much I still cared, even if I wasn't invited to dinner. Maybe next year would be different, less cold, less empty. It wouldn't be the first time I paid to keep peace. But then I read the invoice again, really read it, the line about the verbal agreement, the claim that I had offered the car as a gift. That wasn't just oversight, that was invention. And worse than that was the language toward the bottom. Due to Claire's disruptive and unreliable behavior, payment is requested in full before year's end. Disruptive and unreliable. I whispered those words out loud once in the quiet of my apartment just to hear how absurd they sounded. Me who co-signed the loan. Me who helped raise their daughter when they were too tired or too busy or too invested in appearances. Me who showed up every single time someone needed something. Unreliable. I walked to the filing cabinet in my bedroom and pulled out the paperwork from the dealership. There it was, in black and white, Claire Morgan, primary co-signer. Chloe's name underneath mine in smaller type. I'd always assumed being the co-signer just meant I was responsible. I hadn't realized it also meant I still held legal rights. I sat down at the kitchen table and laid everything out in front of me. The invoice, the contract, my bank statements where each monthly payment had quietly drained away. Maybe I wasn't disruptive. Maybe I was just done. December 26th. The day after Christmas came quietly. No phone calls, no sudden change of heart. Just frost on the windows and a sky that looked like it hadn't decided whether to snow or not. I got up early, made coffee, and took a real shower, the kind where you wash your hair and pick out clean clothes with purpose. I didn't want to look vengeful. I wanted to look ready. White blouse, dark slacks, coat buttoned all the way up. I packed the folder I had spent half the night preparing: loan documents, payment receipts, the original financing agreement, and a letter drafted by a lawyer friend of a friend. Nothing dramatic, just facts. The dealership was quiet, the post-holiday lull already settling in. A receptionist offered me coffee and I declined. My hands were steady. I asked to speak to someone in finance. A man named Mr. Henderson came out a few minutes later, middle-aged, polite, a little wary. I introduced myself, sat across from him, and slid the folder across the desk. "I'm listed as the primary co-signer on this loan," I said. The agreement was that I'd be reimbursed. That hasn't happened. He flipped through the paper's eyebrows, lifting as he read the formal language of the letter. "You're saying you want to initiate repossession? I'm saying I have legal grounds to do." So I said, my voice even. "The payments have come from me. The agreement was broken. I'm not being spiteful. I just want to protect my credit and my future." He nodded slowly, then excused himself to make a few calls. I waited still and silent while snow started to fall outside the window behind him. My phone buzzed once my lawyer checking in. I texted back, "It's moving." When Mr. Henderson returned, he said the paperwork would be processed that afternoon. It might take 48 hours, but the car could be reclaimed from Chloe's driveway as early as tomorrow. I thanked him. Not because I was grateful, though he had been kind, but because I wanted to end the conversation cleanly. For the first time in years, I wasn't explaining myself. I wasn't defending or justifying or softening my tone. I was just acting. It happened faster than I thought it would. By the morning of December 28th, the car was gone. A quiet tow in the early hours, no sirens, no confrontation, just an empty space in Chloe's driveway where the Civic used to be. It was the kind of absence that says more than any argument ever could. I didn't see it happen, of course, but I saw what came after. That afternoon, Chloe went live on TikTok. Her voice was shaky, her eyes red, her mascara smudged just enough to suggest she had been crying for a while. The video title was dramatic. "My own sister stole my car." She sobbed through the first few seconds, then launched into a stream of half-truths and accusations. She didn't even tell me she said voice breaking. One day it was there, and the next it was gone. Who does that? Who takes back a gift from their own family? The comments came quickly. Thousands of them. Some were sympathetic. "That's cold. Family shouldn't do that." But others weren't buying it. "Didn't your sister pay for that car? Maybe pay her back next time. You sound more embarrassed than hurt." I watched the video once. That was enough. I didn't comment. I didn't explain. I didn't share screenshots or tell my side of the story. I just closed the app and blocked her. Then I blocked Susan and Richard and the two cousins who started texting me vague messages like, "What's going on?" as if they hadn't already chosen sides. I filed the entire thing under a folder in my mind labeled Peace, and I didn't open it again. I wasn't angry. Not anymore. There was nothing left to argue, nothing left to prove. What they thought didn't matter now, because the car wasn't the only thing I had taken back. The first call came on New Year's Eve. I let it ring. Then another came and another first from Mom, then Dad, then both of them together. I answered on the third day, not because I owed them anything, but because I was curious what version of me they'd created this time. Mom's voice came first sharp and full of outrage. "How could you do this? Claire, Chloe is devastated. You've humiliated us." Then Dad, usually the quieter one, cut in, his voice rougher than I remembered. "You've ruined Christmas. You embarrassed your sister." This was cruel. I let them speak. I listened to every word. I didn't interrupt. I had nothing to prove, and they were too far gone to hear anything but their own echo. But then their tone shifted. The anger softened into something else. Desperation. "Chloe needs that car for work," Mom said, her voice thinning. "We can't afford another one," Dad added quietly. "Please, Claire, can't we just talk about this?" I waited, took a breath, looked out the window at the gray sky, the bare trees. Then I answered calmly. "I'm not your backup plan," I said. "I'm not your bank. And I'm not the villain in a story you wrote without me." There was silence, a quiet inhale on the other end. "You chose Chloe," I continued. "You chose to cut me out. You chose to send me a bill instead of an invitation. You lied about what I promised." I let that hang in the air. From now on, I said send her the bills, not me. And then I hung up. No shouting, no tears, just a click. That January, I booked a cabin in Oregon. Nothing fancy. 1 bedroom, no Wi-Fi, surrounded by pine trees and the kind of stillness you can't fake. The kind that forces you to sit with yourself whether you're ready or not. I hiked every morning, bundled in layers, the air sharp and honest. I read paperbacks by the fireplace and drank tea without checking the time. The silence didn't hurt here. It felt earned. There were no questions, no demands, no role to play. Just space. One afternoon, I walked into the little town nearby and bought a plain white card. No glitter, no script, no nativity scene. Just a smooth surface and an envelope. Back at the cabin, I sat by the window watching the snow drift sideways and wrote 3 words inside Merry Christmas. Anyway, I didn't sign it, didn't include a return address. Just their names, their home, the place where I had once peeled potatoes and folded napkins, and been told I looked tired when all I wanted was to be seen. I mailed it from the post office on my last day in Oregon. It felt like closing a book I had been stuck inside for far too long. When I returned home, I unpacked slowly, hung my coat, put the kettle on, and for the first time in years, I didn't brace for their calls. I didn't wonder what they'd say next, because it didn't matter. I had already said what I needed to say, and this time I said it for me.